Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week. As always, 6 albums to go through, so I'm going to go through 6 albums now. Okay. We start with the band named 16 and their new album, Guides for the Misguided. This is not a band I knew a whole ton about before. This is actually a band that's been around for 30 years as of this year, actually. I think they had a couple of breakups, I'm not really sure. I'm giving this album an A though. I actually quite enjoyed it. They're a sort of sludgy metal band. I like the riff work. Like, there's some really good crunch to not just the guitar but the bass grooves as well. I think bass is an underrated element of any sludge band, and these guys actually use it quite well. Really good drumming too. I like the lyrical themes, excuse my hair, of religious stuff. There's a lot of like stuff about how bad religion is, and even though as I say this as an agnostic, I don't like it when people bag on religion too much. It is a good thing to stick to. Performances are really good. I like the production, really good mix. I think one of the band members did it, and yeah, solid enough pacing as well. It can maybe blur a teeny bit on occasion, but it's got more than enough really good riffs, and it settles into a groove quite early, even if around the halfway point it does start to feel a little tad predictable. But again, as I've said before, just because something is predictable doesn't necessarily make it bad. So yeah, really good stuff. Solid sludge, solid themes, good writing. I quite enjoyed this one. Next, we have another band that's been around for a wee while, and probably the band most well known in this video, Dream Theater and their new album Parasomnia. And I have never listened to a Dream Theater album. I don't even think I listened to a Dream Theater song before this. But I'm giving it a B plus because it really does just feel like I feel like I've heard this Dream Theater album and I don't need to listen to another one. That might sound a bit mean, but I don't hate it. You know, I mean, this is what the band does, you know, really good prog metal that they've always just been great at. I do think, even though as much as I like the instrumentation, there's really good guitar work, I like the keyboard work the most, weirdly, I do think it can drag a lot, because this album is over an hour and 10 minutes, so good Christ, but, you know, it's still got good enough instrumental work. I do like the lyrical theme of, like, sleep and, like, sort of being in a weird dream state, and I wish that they did turn that into more of a fully expanded concept of, like, say, I know, fighting weird nightmare demons. That's just me. But good performances as well. John Petrucci, who is the band's guitarist, produced it. He did a really good job. Yeah, not really many complaints about it. I just think a bit long and sort of kind of what I expected. I mean, prog metal, it is like prog metal can confirm the album, but like these guys have always been prog metal can confirm the band, even though again I've never listened to any of their albums before this or any of the songs before this. And my main familiarity with them is the fact that the drummer Mike Portnoy's son Max plays in the band Tala. I think he's left since then. I could be wrong. That will be like corrected, but yeah, overall good for a band that's been around this long to be this consistent. I enjoyed it. Next, we have a band called Inborn Suffering and their new album Pale Grey Monochrome. This is their first album in like 13 years, because it's a bit weird to explain, but in 2022 they kind of broke up. But like they did put out an album, but that album was just like an alternate version of their debut, so I don't count it as an album. But they did put out 2 albums in their initial run. This is their first album back since they reformed in 2023. They broke up for only a year, so it really wasn't worth it. I'm giving this one a B. Lowest grade of the episode. I don't really know why I bother pointing that out anymore. You don't really care, but I enjoyed it. It was some solid enough doomy death metal. I couldn't really get a good capture on the themes though, and I did check. I think there's some stuff about mental spiraling. I don't know. It's way too atmospheric is my main problem with it. Like, I don't mind good atmosphere, I can appreciate it, but there is way too much of it, not enough actually getting done for my liking. But I do like the bulk of the instrumentation. I think the writing itself is pretty good. Production, I feel like can feel a bit barren, oddly, which is weirdly fitting for the sound, but even I noticed that it was sort of kind of a one-trick pony in terms of the mix. I didn't hate it fully, though, and the band are properly committed to it, you know, and I guess part of it is because it is their first full-length album in God knows how long. I don't know if they put an EP before this. You know, like, the first actual full album in 13 years, a bit out of practice, but not as bad as it could have been, and still really solid from a country that does actually solid and really well put together metal acts that don't stick to like the norm of like I was gonna say more Western audiences, like more naturally English speaking audiences, I think would be the term there. But yeah, good stuff, all in all. Even if it is my lowest grade, I still quite enjoyed what I got out of it. Next, we only have the band in this episode that I've actually listened to before and covered before. Ginger with their new album, Duel. This is a band from Donetsk in Ukraine, and I'm giving this one an A-. I like Ginger. It did take me a while to actually fully come around to them, but then Wallflower dropped to 2291, and I was like, okay, they're pretty good, turns out. This is their first album since then, by the way. I did like enough of it. I got my hand on this bottle of pop between my legs. I don't know why it was there. I was just drinking it between takes, that's why. But really, a Fanta Zero Sugar Pineapple and Grapefruit, if you're curious. Is it pineapple and grapefruit? Yes, it is. Really good, really tasty stuff. Anyway, way too sidetracked there. Really like the instrumentation on this one. This is the band's typical like proggy metal corey stuff. I did like the rest of the guitar work's really good. Solid drumming as well, and this is some of lead singer Tati Shmelyuk. I don't remember how to pronounce her name correctly, but Tatiana's clean vocals are probably the best they've ever sounded in my opinion. Her screams are still really good, but like it's a clean singing that soars the most for me. Lyrically, couldn't find much for themes, and it's not really written clearly, and I did like the lyrics though, because they're told in a more poetic way than like more impactful way. I think there's some political stuff, maybe, I don't know. Performances are still solid though. Production's quite good too, handled by Mark Morton, I believe, or Max Morton, I think it's Max, who's done the band's work before, and yeah, still really good here as well, and solid pacing, kind of blurs and meshes a bit too much, especially in the early stages, but it does start paying off near the end. It's got some really good and nicely put together stuff to it as well. So if you like Ginger and you just sort of expect Ginger to sound like they usually do, this will probably do that for you. Next we have a bit of a unique entry. We have Marco Hietala, I don't know if I'm saying any of that correctly, with his second solo album, Roses from the Deep. Trying so hard not to make the Adele joke there. But this, Marco is the former bassist and male vocalist specifically for Nightwish, and he's been in so many fucking projects. Good God. Giving this one a B+, though, I did quite enjoy it. There is... in terms of lyrics, it is a bit weird, I will admit, because I think there's supposed to be, like, a specific theme of, like, addiction or something. Again, I'll flash that up because I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but the lyrics don't really lean into that, and there's a song which is just called The Dragon Must Die, which makes me think that I want to fight a dragon. Like, that's what it makes me think of. I get that the metaphor is supposed to be about something to do with drugs, but, like, all I was thinking of, no, I want to punch a dragon. That's what I want to do. But I like Marco's performance. His vocals are actually quite good, which is weird because I never listened to Nightwish. I only covered their past two albums, and again, this is the band I always feel like I did a backtracking episode on. I never did, but I keep thinking I did. I've legit gaslit myself into thinking I did one for them, and it was like, that was 5 years ago, which was the all-female season. So yeah, you'd think I'd remember by now. But his performance was great. I love the instrumentation. I like the fact that they got Tarja Turunen, who's the former vocalist of Nightwish, the former female vocalist, to actually have a guest spot on this album. I just thought that was genuinely sweet. It was really nice to see like two old friends who had been with that band since the beginning, who have both since left, just have fun on a song. My finger actually accidentally dinked my desk there. Pacing's solid enough. It does drag quite a little bit in some areas, but I don't mind this. I don't mind the lyrics. I just wish that they leaned into the more weird and fantastical elements, because it really feels like this album wanted to be a power metal album, but just settled on like some of the more bass symphonic stuff, which isn't terrible. I just really wanted it to go all ham out, you know, that's just me. Yeah, performance is good, production's really good as well. Solidly put together and pretty good stuff. If you listen to Nightwish, you'll probably get like Nightwish but without the Nightwishy bits and just Marco, which is fine because he's really good as well. Next we have Noctambulist and their second album, To De Droom, which is Dutch for The Dream. And much like with Harakiri for the Sky, which I covered like last week or the week before, I can't remember, this is a post-black metal album with elements of with lyrical themes covering like things like depression and other mental health issues. And I did forget to mention as well, but I did look at it between takes, that Inborn Suffering's album also had like themes of depression and disillusionment and some really good emotive stuff. I think Noctambulist's album does it better than Inborn Suffering's one does, though. I'm also giving it an A. I liked it well enough. I thought the performance was really good. Like, the vocalist put so much emotion into his delivery. It was really, really well told, how he like told the stories of what he's going through. Although, weirdly, this album felt a bit like I was listening to Eunoia by Envy, which is my favourite album of 2024. It felt a bit like listening to that, but instead of it being in Japanese, it was in Dutch. And another key difference was that Envy were nice enough to work in some English for me to understand. Noctambulist stick to their Dutch roots, which is not terrible because I like it when a band sticks to their native language, even if I don't speak it and would prefer English, but that's just me. But overall, good themes, great performances, love the instrumentation as well, nicely layered. I think there's 3 guitarists, which is really good. I think that's one of the main things that helps. I think one of those is the lead singer of the band as well. And by the way, that's 3 actual guitarists. There is also 1 bassist and 1 drummer. I think I've had 2 bassists. That'd be weird. I've never heard of a band that's had 2 bassists though at the same time. Like, I've heard of bands with 3 guitarists, even 4. Like, I've heard of those with, like, extra drummers or percussionists. I've never heard of bands with more than 1 bassist. So if one exists, I would like to know. But yeah, that was really good. And solid instrumentation performances, like the writing as well. Pacing can take a while to get to where it's going, and it does feel like a bit like in Moonsuffering's album, a bit too atmospheric, and it doesn't really go to many places, but the build-up is sometimes worth it. And production's quite good too. You know, I like the mix overall. And I like how this album came out. Nicely put together, emotive, and it's nice to have typically heavy metal genres go over things that most heavy metal genres don't really do. I quite liked how it was put together, and good on Noctambulist. And that'll about do it for the albums. As always, go and listen to all of them yourself and formulate your own opinions, because that's what makes this shit interesting. I'll go over my stuff for next week, though, which probably going to be good stuff. I don't know. We have Hands Like Houses with Atmospherics, Lacuna Coil with Sleepless Empire, looking forward to that one. Open Casket with Trials of Failure, Friendlith with Ashen Womb, I said Asian Womb, The Rum Jacks with Dead Anthems, and Sayor with Amidst the Ruins. That's something for you to look forward to next week if you want to give it a go. As for favourite album cover and song, I'll give favourite album cover to Guides for the Misguided by 16. It just looks fucking cool. And I'll give favourite song to Lang Live the Dream, or Long Live the Dream, from Noctambulist album to The Dream, which means The Dream. So yeah, that's what I give those two. And that'll about do it from me. Next thing you'll see me for will be tomorrow night, the return to after Cutting Edge last week, which was a solid pay-per-view. And then Saturday night for possibly the finish of Turnip Boy 2. I don't know, we'll see what happens. But as always, thank you for watching, you're awesome. Bye-bye.